It's interesting if you look at the Gartner study that they did on social readiness. They looked at like 250 large companies that are sort of facing the challenge in general of how do we move an organization forward to get them less fearful of this change and embrace the change that comes from social and mobile. And they said, number one, you have to demonstrate executive support, executive commitment. You have to lead by example. That's kind of an obvious one. But it's interesting that number two was defining a purpose that engages without threatening. And I think maybe that's the root of a lot of the natural tension is that CIOs are about reducing risk and looking at the big picture. CMOs, in a lot of ways, want the new shiny object, and it's like, well, I don't care that that's the way that we always did things. I want it now, and I want to do things differently. I'm wondering whether things like, obviously we talk about social and the impact of that, but things like SaaS and the new types of applications, like take Salesforce, for example. One of my theories is that as more applications are more self-service, they're more SaaS, that it sort of allows CMOs and other operational groups to kind of work around the IT organization because maybe they don't need the infrastructure. You don't need to set up some new servers to run these applications. You basically just sign up and you're off and running. You think that has something to do with it? Then in a way, it's one part working with and one part working around IT as a CMO?
I do. I think that's a very good point. And employees that can't get the IT department to implement the tools they need to do their job successfully are doing just that, Alan. They're going out and they're buying these SaaS-based tools or cloud-based tools, and they're using them without IT even knowing in some cases. But I do think as we're moving forward, and a lot of these things will start to be integrated and connect, and it'll be important to support some of these external initiatives internally within the IT organization, I still think it's important that the CMO and CIO come together with a shared vision and start executing together hand in hand.
Now, one of the things I think is interesting, when we talk, obviously, go back to the very beginning point of it all, when we said, well, they need to find that kind of common ground. One has to give a little, one has to take a little, and go back and forth. And it kind of, to me, kind of boils down to conversation, not necessarily just conversation, but the timely conversation around implementing all this. Kind of speak to that a little bit more.
Okay, I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I find interesting with all of this is going back to the conversations that actually take place when they have to give a little, each side has to give, each side has to take a little. But the timeliness of these conversations is incredibly important. And I think that's one part that kind of falls by the wayside. Yeah, they might be talking, but it's not necessarily right when it needs to be happening at that point in time.
Yeah, and again, I think that goes back to starting with a vision, building in some objectives, and then I think Alan talked about a roadmap. I think that's absolutely correct. A lot of times when I talk to CIOs, they're not even part of those discussions. They're not, and a lot of times they're not even on or in the executive boardroom, which I find remarkable. I think the CIO has got to be included in strategic discussions, and they've got to be the ones that support that strategy from a technical viewpoint. I don't think enough CIOs are given that opportunity especially in today's Global 3000, which was surprising to me when I did my research on it.